There's an NBA player right now that teams are seriously starting to dread playing against. Analysts are throwing out comparisons to Magic Johnson, and some are even saying that at only 24 years old, he already has Hall of Fame level talent.
You think this is a pivotal year in LaMelo Ball's career with Charlotte?
I do. I think, this is going to be one of those years where he needs to get them into the postseason. If they don't, they need to sit down at the round table, and figure out if they need to part ways. But let's live in the moment. And the moment is we're watching a box office talented young man in LaMelo Ball.
A few people around the league even believe he could lead the Charlotte Hornets to their very first NBA championship. But what makes this rise even crazier is the fact that just 1 year earlier, people were questioning if he would ever live up to the massive hype around his name because of non-stop injuries and rough stretches on the court. Yep, we're talking about LaMelo Ball, the 6'7" point guard who plays with crazy confidence, flashy passes, deep-range shooting, and the kind of creativity that can completely break a defense apart. Right now, he's turning into one of the biggest problems in the NBA. So how did LaMelo go from getting doubted every night to becoming the guy teams are scared to face? And why are people suddenly talking about Charlotte like they could become a real threat in the East? To understand all of that, we gotta go back to the 2020 NBA draft. LaMelo Ball, the youngest of the Ball brothers, took one of the wildest paths to the NBA anyone has ever seen. While most future stars were grinding through the normal high school and college route, Melo was already playing against older competition at a super young age and building a reputation as a flashy basketball prodigy. Before he even stepped onto an NBA court, LaMelo had already been dragged across the basketball world. First Lithuania, then back to the United States for his dad's JBA league, then Spire Academy, and eventually Australia's NBL, where he shocked people by dominating grown professional players. That overseas run changed everything for his draft stock and helped push him all the way to the 3rd overall pick. Still, even after all the highlights and flashy plays, plenty of scouts weren't fully sold. Some compared his playmaking talent to Luka Doncic, but others thought his streetball-style game would never work in the NBA. Critics questioned his shot selection, his defense, and whether all those risky passes would backfire against elite competition. A lot of people wondered if LaMelo Ball could actually become the superstar his father always promised he would be. Then came his NBA debut, and it was rough. LaMelo failed to score a single point in his first game, instantly giving critics more ammo to attack him online. People were already throwing around bust comments after just one night. But Melo answered fast. In the very next game against the Oklahoma City Thunder, he finally got his first NBA bucket and completely flipped the energy around him. And he didn't stop at one basket either. LaMelo dropped 13 points on 50% shooting while playing fewer minutes than he did in his debut. Suddenly, people started seeing flashes of why Charlotte believed in him so much. But just 2 games later, he really shocked the basketball world. Thanks to an explosive 22-point performance while shooting an insane 90% effective field goal percentage, plus 8 rebounds and 5 assists, LaMelo gave the NBA its first real glimpse of what his full superstar potential could look like. The confidence, the passing, the pace, the swagger, it was all starting to click. But right after that huge game, things got shaky again. Over Charlotte's next 4 matchups, LaMelo struggled badly with his shot, hitting only 37% from the field. Even though he was still averaging 13.3 points and over 6 assists per game, questions about his efficiency started getting louder. Some people around the league wondered if he could truly become the kind of player capable of carrying an NBA franchise deep into the playoffs. Then came a matchup everybody had circled: LaMelo versus his older brother Lonzo Ball and the New Orleans Pelicans. The spotlight was huge, and Melo wanted badly to prove that he could lead the Hornets out of the bottom of the standings and eventually turn them into a championship contender. But once again, the shooting struggles showed up. LaMelo only made 4 of his 11 shot attempts, and critics started pushing the idea that Charlotte may have picked the wrong player at number 3. Still, there was one massive detail hiding in the stat sheet that gave the Hornets serious hope. Even with the rough shooting night, LaMelo grabbed 10 rebounds and finished just 1 assist away from becoming the youngest player in NBA history to record a triple-double. What made it even crazier was the fact that he did all of that coming off the bench while only playing 25 minutes. That's the kind of talent you simply can't teach. So heading into the Hornets' next game against the Atlanta Hawks, LaMelo came in hungry. He knew history was right there waiting for him, and now he was determined to finally sharpen up his efficiency, silence the doubters, and grab that missing assist once and for all. He's got a triple-double! The basketball world exploded after LaMelo Ball pulled off something unbelievable. At just 19 years old, he became the youngest player in NBA history to record a triple-double, breaking the exact record that once belonged to his own brother, Lonzo Ball. In one night, Melo didn't just make headlines, he completely stole the spotlight and showed everybody why the hype around him was so massive. But even after making history, LaMelo still wasn't officially viewed as one of the NBA's top starting point guards. He was still coming off the bench and fighting for respect around the league. That only made him hungrier. Melo wanted to prove to head coach James Borrego and the entire Hornets organization that the future of the franchise should revolve around him. And honestly, Charlotte started realizing they might not have much of a choice after what happened on January 30th, 2021 against the Milwaukee Bucks. Coming off the bench once again, LaMelo absolutely lit up one of the best teams in basketball. Against a Bucks squad many people believed would win the NBA championship, Melo dropped 27 points on an insane 80% shooting while also delivering 9 smooth assists that had fans going crazy. Every possession felt electric when the ball was in his hands. But the biggest moment of the night actually came late in the game when Terry Rozier went down and was forced to miss time. Suddenly, the opportunity LaMelo had dreamed about his entire life was finally sitting right in front of him, becoming the starting point guard for an NBA team. Still, just like his rough NBA debut, Melo's first game as the lead guard for Charlotte didn't exactly go smoothly. He struggled through a tough shooting night, hitting only 3 of his 11 attempts and finishing with 13 points. On top of that, the Hornets barely lost a painful overtime game against the Miami Heat. Immediately, critics came flooding back with the same questions. Could LaMelo actually become efficient enough to lead an NBA franchise long-term? Then came February 5th, 2021. With Terry Rozier healthy again, Charlotte suddenly had a major decision to make. Should LaMelo return to the bench? Should Rozier become the 6th man? Or should rising guard Devontae Graham lose his starting spot? The pressure around the team was growing fast. But LaMelo made the decision a whole lot easier during a showdown against the Utah Jazz. Only 23 games into his rookie season, Melo exploded for the first 30-point game of his NBA career. He dropped a massive 34 points while shooting 52% from the field, showing off deep threes, flashy finishes, and fearless confidence against one of the toughest teams in the league. Even though Charlotte lost the game, people could see something changing right before their eyes. Now that he had the trust of the coaching staff and the franchise behind him, LaMelo started looking way more comfortable on the court. The mistakes from earlier in the season slowly began disappearing, and his game started leveling up fast. Over the next 18 games, Ball averaged 20 points while shooting 47% from the field and an impressive 42% from three-point range. That alone shocked critics who once claimed his unusual shooting form would never work in the NBA. Then he added another huge moment by tying the rookie record with 7 made threes against the Houston Rockets. Suddenly, defenses had no idea how to guard him, and when you combined his scoring with 5.8 rebounds and 6.6 assists per game, people around the league started making some bold claims. Some believed Charlotte had found a future superstar. Others were already calling him the next face of the franchise. But just as everything was starting to come together, disaster struck. During a mid-March game against the Los Angeles Clippers, LaMelo landed awkwardly on his wrist after a play near the basket. The arena instantly went quiet. Not long after, the Hornets announced the news nobody wanted to hear. Ball had been ruled out indefinitely. And while LaMelo Ball was thankfully able to return for the final 10 games of Charlotte's 2020 to 2021 season, something just felt off. He didn't look like the same electric rookie who had been lighting up defenses earlier in the year. His numbers dropped hard, shooting only 38% from the field and a rough 24% from 3, while averaging just 15.1 points per game. For a player who had completely taken over headlines before the injury, fans started wondering if the wrist issue was still affecting him. Still, even through the shooting struggles, one thing never disappeared: LaMelo's feel for the game. Even with his jumper not fully there yet, Melo continued stuffing the stat sheet by averaging 6.2 assists and 6.2 rebounds. His vision, creativity, and ability to control the pace still looked elite. And after all the insane performances he had delivered throughout the season, the league rewarded him in a huge way. LaMelo Ball was officially crowned the NBA Rookie of the Year. That award changed everything for Charlotte. Once the Hornets traded away Devonte Graham during the offseason, the message became crystal clear. This franchise was fully committing to LaMelo Ball as the face of its future. The keys to the organization were officially his, and Melo wasted absolutely no time showing why. To open the 2021-2022 season, LaMelo exploded against the Indiana Pacers with one of the best games of his young career. He dropped 31 points, knocked down 7 threes, grabbed 9 rebounds, and added 7 assists in a thrilling Charlotte win. Every time he touched the ball, the energy inside the arena shifted. The Hornets suddenly looked like a team that might finally return to the playoffs for the first time since 2016. And at first, things looked incredible. Charlotte came flying out the gates with a hot 5-2 start, playing fast, flashy basketball that had fans hyped all over the league. But then things started slipping. By November 8th, the Hornets entered a matchup against the Los Angeles Lakers, riding a brutal 4-game losing streak and desperately trying to climb back to .500. So naturally, LaMelo tried to carry the squad himself. Playing in front of friends and family back in Los Angeles, Melo stuffed the stat sheet once again with 25 points, 12 assists, and a ridiculous 16 rebounds. He was doing everything possible to keep Charlotte alive. But despite the huge performance, the Lakers still pulled out the win, extending the Hornets' losing streak to 5 straight games. Then things got even worse. Right after Charlotte's hot start, LaMelo was forced to miss multiple games because of health and safety protocols. Without their young star running the offense, the Hornets completely lost momentum. Over the next 11 games, Charlotte managed to win only twice, and their record quickly dropped below .500 again. The excitement around the team started fading fast, and pressure began building around the organization. So as the new year got closer, LaMelo locked in on 2 major goals. First, lead Charlotte into the postseason. Second, become an NBA All-Star. And honestly, both goals still looked pretty difficult at the time. The Eastern Conference was stacked, and Charlotte kept struggling to stay consistent. But Melo kept leveling up anyway. By February 19th, 2022, after an unbelievable stretch heading into All-Star Weekend, LaMelo forced the entire league to pay attention. Over a 23-game run before the break, he recorded 3 separate 30-point games, 6 games with at least 10 assists, and averaged 20.5 points per night as only a second-year player. His confidence was growing, his shooting looked smoother, and his control of the offense had reached another level. Then the moment finally came. LaMelo Ball was officially named an NBA All-Star. It was a massive achievement for a player who had dealt with injuries, criticism, and non-stop doubters so early in his career. But even after reaching All-Star status, Melo's main focus never changed: winning. Because despite LaMelo playing at an elite level, the Hornets were still struggling to stack victories. When Charlotte returned from the All-Star break, the team still sat 2 games below .500. And with the Eastern Conference packed with playoff contenders, it felt like the Hornets would need an almost impossible finish to sneak into the postseason race. Every remaining game suddenly felt like a must-win battle. 7 rebounds, pull-up 3 in transition, it's good. 30 points for Ball. LaMelo Ball was catching fire late in the 2021-2022 season. And suddenly, Charlotte looked dangerous again. The young star completely flipped the energy around the team by averaging 21.8 points while shooting an incredible 47% from the field and 47% from 3, along with nearly 9 assists per game. Melo was playing with confidence, swagger, and total control of the offense. Every night, he looked more and more like a future superstar. And thanks to his hot streak, the Hornets closed the season on an impressive 11-4 run. Fans finally started believing the playoffs were within reach. But just when everything seemed to be lining up for Charlotte, disaster hit in the play-in tournament against the Atlanta Hawks. the Hornets suffered a crushing loss that completely ended their postseason hopes. Another painful ending for a franchise desperate to move forward. Then the next season arrived, and things somehow got even more frustrating. Only 14 games into the year, LaMelo finally returned after dealing with another injury setback. But just 3 games later, fans watched in shock as another scary moment unfolded on the court. Can't keep it in bounds. Oh, LaMelo. Thankfully, this injury wasn't as serious as people first feared. Reports confirmed there was no major ligament damage, and Ball managed to return 12 games later. But by then, concern around his health was already growing fast. The scary part was that when LaMelo actually played, he looked unbelievable. After returning, Melo went on an absolute tear, averaging 24.8 points, 5.7 rebounds, and 8.7 assists while carrying Charlotte's offense night after night. His scoring had clearly reached another level, and defenders struggled to stay in front of him. The flashy passes were still there, the deep threes were falling, and his confidence looked sky high. But even with their superstar back in the lineup, the Hornets just kept losing. Over the next 18 games with LaMelo active, Charlotte won only 4 times. The roster around him looked shaky, injuries kept piling up, and frustration around the team continued growing. It felt like Melo was doing everything possible just to keep the season alive. Then on January 18, 2023, things took another heartbreaking turn. LaMelo suffered a non-contact ankle fracture that officially ended his entire 2022 to 2023 season. The injury shocked fans across the league and immediately raised a massive question around Charlotte's future. Even if the Hornets eventually built a championship-level roster around LaMelo Ball, could he stay healthy long enough to actually lead them there? Still, Melo wasn't about to let the doubters bury him. By November 26, 2023, LaMelo came storming back with one of the hottest stretches of his career. During an insane 8-game run, he dropped 30 against Dallas, 34 against Washington, 32 versus the Knicks, 37 against Milwaukee, another 34 against New York, 36 against Boston, and 34 more against the Wizards. Defenses had absolutely no answers for him. Across that stretch, Ball averaged a ridiculous 32.2 points while shooting 50% from the field and 44% from 3, plus nearly 9 assists per game. At that point, nobody could question his talent anymore. When healthy, LaMelo looked like one of the most dangerous offensive guards in the entire NBA. But the health concerns still refused to disappear. People around the league started wondering if LaMelo would ever be able to complete a fully healthy season again. And heading into the 2024 season, a completely different issue started showing up. The exact weakness some scouts warned about before he even entered the NBA: turnovers. So now the biggest question surrounding LaMelo Ball isn't about talent anymore. Everybody already knows he has superstar ability. The real question is whether he can finally clean up the mistakes holding both him and the Hornets back from taking that next step. During an early season battle against Atlanta, Melo went absolutely crazy offensively, nearly matching the same ridiculous stat lines he had dropped on the Hawks before. He even buried 9 threes in one night. But despite all the highlights and scoring explosions, his shocking 10 turnovers played a huge role in another painful Charlotte loss. And sadly for the Hornets, the problem didn't end there. Just a few games later, against the defending champion Boston Celtics, Ball once again showed he could score against even the NBA's toughest defenses. He dropped 31 points in one matchup, then followed it up with 36 more while shooting an efficient 53% from the field and 43% from deep across both games. The scoring was elite, the confidence was there, and the superstar flashes were impossible to ignore. But across those same 2 games, LaMelo also committed 10 total turnovers, continuing the exact issue that kept hurting Charlotte in critical moments. And that's what makes LaMelo Ball such a fascinating player right now. One night, he looks like a future MVP capable of carrying a franchise deep into the playoffs. And the next, the mistakes remind everyone why the Hornets still haven't fully broken through. So heading into the future, one thing is clear. If LaMelo can stay healthy and finally tighten up his game, Charlotte may actually have a real superstar capable of changing the entire franchise forever.